hit me immediately that the point of politics, or one of the main goals of politics, is to set the Overton window towards your side of the discussion. So people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the point is not for her to be elected whatever high, let's say it's president. It's not for her to be elected to that position. The whole point of her existence is to move the national dialogue in such a far direction left that the right thinks it's making a compromise when it says, okay, we need family leave, national family leave. It thinks it's making a compromise. Meanwhile, the goal of the left is accomplished because we've just creeped more towards socialism. So I've held my tongue on this for a while because I wanted to understand further what I was seeing and some of the people I follow were seeing. But it seems Jordan Peterson his role is to move the Overton window to the left, so sort of be a right figure, but in such a way that moves the discourse to the left. I just saw that he called somebody that I like, his name is Vox Day, super intelligent guy. He's an economist, he's a writer, he's a comic book maker, he's a game designer, just a super intelligent, productive guy. So Jordan Peterson called him an ethno-nationalist, which if you look at the root, you might as well call somebody a nationalist. Nation, nativity, natale, the word comes from like where you're born, or to be born. So your nation has nothing to do with your state, even though the word has sort of gone that direction. As the state has grown, it's become the Overton window has moved so far to the left that nation is confused or sort of muddled with state. So when someone, especially people from the left, use this term ethno-nationalist, they'll throw Richard Spencer in there to create this false grouping. Nationalist, it's a redundant phrase. So would you call the country of Japan a country of ethno-nationalists? No, they maintain their culture, and they're very staunch about maintaining their culture. Same thing in Pakistan. They're very staunch about their culture. How many Christians exist in Pakistan? As far as I know, in the Middle East, used to be, before World War I, like, I want to say 15% Christian. Like now it's like less than 1 or 2% Christian. And the numbers before, the Middle East and Northern Africa used to be all Christian, but they've since been, different topic. So it's become clear to me that Jordan Peterson is a globalist, that he doesn't believe in the existence of nations, and that is an idea brought about that fits in line with this New World Order. It's a global government that is unelected, where the vote that you, me, and our neighbors, we put in, every 2 years or every 4 years, it doesn't count for anything. Our laws and our national heritage is superseded by this United Nations global effort, and the largest voting bloc currently in the United Nations, which is continuing to grow, is the 65 Islamic nations. That's why you're seeing more and more countries adopt these rules, even the Pope himself adopting these rules where you're not allowed to criticize any religion. And this is obviously brought about by the Muslims. So pay attention to where the Overton window is going. What was acceptable speech 5 years ago, 10 years ago? It could have even been 2 months ago. The Overton window is moving so far to the left, and it's intentional. Nuance Bro did a video. I think he went to the Women's March or something, and this woman said something outlandish. It was ban all guns immediately or something like that, or government total gun control. And Nuance Bro said, "Oh, do you really believe this?" She said, "No, I don't want to ban all guns immediately, but I take an extreme position, so then we can find middle ground." So that's exactly what's going on in the political world. So, pretty crazy. I just saw that American children under 10 years old, white children are no longer a majority. So I don't really care what somebody's race is, but the statistics are clear what direction people vote. It seems to be that white people in general have a tendency to vote for smaller government, so more individual rights, more freedom. You can actually see on freedom indexes, countries that are more white tend to have higher freedom indexes. The more diversity you get in a given nation, the less free it gets. The more those non-white groups will vote for an increasing size of the state. So obviously you can't say what the individual, you can't apply to the group, you can't apply to the individual the practice of the group, but the trends are clear. I think blacks vote 70 plus, maybe 80 plus % for the left. Hispanics 70 or 80% to the left. Jews 80%, maybe 70% to the left. Females vote. They tend to vote more safety than they do freedom. They vote to the left. So the one demographic that is voting for small government on a consistent basis is white people, mostly men. And actually Cubans, actually this word Hispanic was a term, it seems to be invented by the left to sort of unify, sort of to create this giant blanket of voters. So it's almost a racist thing to say that Mexicans will vote the same way that a Chilean will vote, the same way that a Cuban will vote. Cubans actually vote more right. My hypothesis is that it comes from living under a communist regime. And so the ones that get to America appreciate its freedom and want to maintain that. So this is so deep. But right now, white people are being shamed into despising their own nation. Their own, and again, nation is simply the people you are born into. It is your ethnicity. They're being taught from a young age, white privilege, Gillette. I think in the Gillette commercial there were like 46 males presented in the video. Most of them were presented in a bad light, in a toxic masculinity light. And 41 of those 46, the numbers are similar to what I'm saying. It was like 41 out of 46 were white, and they were the toxic ones. The more brown or black a person's skin color, they were presented as the hero. So it's very obvious from the video what this was. It was a propaganda piece to present cultural Marxism, to create resentment amongst the more minority classes, to sort of make a call to overpowering the white population. They used Anna Kasparian. She works for the Young Turks. The Young Turks is named after a group that committed the Armenian genocide. They killed 1 million people. As far as I understand, they're mostly Christians. Jews too. The Young Turks, they were Muslim. And so why would you name your show after this? Well, it turns out the Young Turks is funded by a caliphate. So if you want to take over a country, don't do it with guns. That's a bloody mess, right? And it's easy to see a threat when it's a sharp dagger, or if you hear a loud noise, or it's much easier to sort of slip in through the back door, get inside somebody's relationships, sort of twist their sense of reality, get in their dreams, and just twist their dream just enough. You know, it's like Inception. You just get in there enough to make them think it's their idea. You plant a seed and you let it grow. And so Marxism plants the seeds of resentment and envy and the will to power to try to overtake freedom-loving countries. So, point is, just keep your wits about you when you're seeing these things. When you see, especially mainstream media, smearing somebody, there's a good chance that they actually have something valuable to say, and that's the reason they're smearing them. Now, especially when somebody goes rhetorical, there's a difference between dialectic and rhetorical. Dialectic is when you use reasoning and evidence and you build a case based off of solid logic. Rhetoric is when you appeal to emotion, when you use artful language, artsy language, hyperbole, exaggeration. You know, and rhetoric can be true, but it doesn't have to be. The whole point of rhetoric is to convince or to get the listener on the side of the speaker. So a comedian is a rhetorician. He uses rhetoric. An artist will use sort of visual rhetoric to communicate a message. So from what I can tell, Vox Day is super intelligent, very concerned with the well-being of America, and sees it for what it is. America is a white nation, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with Japan being a Japanese nation. There's nothing wrong with the Congo being a black nation. So when you see people promoting this whole idea of diversity, diversity is not our strength. If it was our strength, you would just say strength, like strength is our strength. You wouldn't have to prove it to people that diversity is your strength if it is your actual strength. So, like, we know this. Like, the more diversity in a tighter area, the more conflict you get. Okay, people tend to group towards their people that look like them or act like them or think like them. And that it's a proxy, but race tends to be that way. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just, it is what it is. So, for whatever reason, it seems like white nations produce more freedom-loving societies. We think, I mean, just off the top of your head, what are some of the more free nations that you would go and possibly live in, like more livable places? America's up there. Maybe Australia, maybe New Zealand, maybe Scandinavian countries, maybe Holland. You know, in some of these countries, maybe you think, oh, I don't know about now. Yeah, well, let's think 5-10 years ago, before they became diversity meccas. Scary analogy. These were amazingly, okay, try to pick my language. You don't think freedom and think, okay, I'm going to go live in the Middle East. You don't think freedom and say, I'm going to go live in Africa. You don't think freedom and say, I'm going to go live in China. And there are some free countries in Asia. It seems to have to do with IQ as well. There seems to have to be like a certain threshold of IQ to hold a functionally free society. Apparently it's the number one indicator as to whether your society is free. It's not a rule, but it tends to be that way. So yeah, point is, Overton window, through Hollywood, through media, through Marxist education system, the whole point is to make the Overton window move so far to the left that it seems like somebody who just thinks somebody who thinks that America has the right to exist is an extremist. Oh, is it? That's how far we've gone to the left. That's how far we've let our kids be in these public school. We've given our children to schools. We've told women that they should stop raising their kids, stop breastfeeding them, give them soy, put them in the school system where they learn from the state that there's no such thing as gender, therefore there's no such thing as father and mother, therefore if there's no need for biology, why can't a state be a father or a mother? Why can't the state be your caretaker? And so you decrease children and women's ability to pair bond, and you give them the state. You give them welfare. You give them child services. So for a woman, a single mother, it makes more sense not to have the man in the house. Actually, a female can get like 60 grand worth of benefits by not having a man in the house, by being a single mother. Government benefits. And so the government becomes the husband. The government is who the woman pair bonds with. And this is a problem because it creates a recurring cycle of ever-growing government. So, a lot of thoughts here. A lot of taboo topics, because the dialogue has gone so far to the left, you can't even have these dialogues without triggering people. Yikes. Yeah. So pay attention to the Overton window. Realize it's not extreme to think that a country has a right to have borders. Israel has borders for a reason, because they would be destroyed if they didn't have borders. Say what you want about Israel. Say, like, Spain, their walls works. the reason I have a wall in my house is because it works. It keeps the wind out. It keeps robbers out. It keeps rain out. It keeps my roof over my head. Of course walls work. That's why all the politicians that are against the walls have walls, because they work. So, if you don't think we should have a wall, it means you don't think that the United States has a right to exist. It means you don't think we are a sovereign nation. You have to check that logic. But probably the reason you don't think walls exist is because, that America should have a wall, is because the Overton windows moved so far to the left, where you think we are all just global citizens, and everybody is the same, and if we let in this group of people, America is for the needy and hungry, and this is for everybody. Meanwhile, these same people are gaining the ability to vote and change our government in such a way as to increase the size of it, increase our national debt, increase our government dependence, and we end up creating a monster. Absolute monster. Nobody wants to give up power once they gain it. The solution to government, as the founding fathers said, is to spread that to the individual, to spread the power to the people. But if all the people, not all the people, but if 70 or 80% of immigrants vote for growing state power, and we continually add, it's something like 2 million immigrants every single year, at some point, and very soon, America will cease to be the land of the free, the home of the brave. There won't be a First Amendment. There won't be a Second Amendment. What is it, the Fourth Amendment? Constitution. What's the Fourth Amendment here? Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. That's going to be gone too. Sixth Amendment. They've already shown through the Blasey-Ford case that they don't want a Sixth Amendment either. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial in an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the criminal shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. The whole Blasey-Ford case, the hashtag Believe All Women, flew in the face of the right to due process. Innocence until proven guilty. The left wants to move to just say the left statists. Because there's a lot of leftists who are just naive. But when you move in this direction of growing power of the state, which is what I mean when I say left, you essentially take people's individual rights away. And it's not long before you can just be arrested for suspicion. I don't think the slippery slope fallacy is a fallacy. I think it's legit. So anyways, pay attention. If you don't pay attention, nobody will. And I've touched on topics like race. It doesn't matter what your race is. You can believe in the values of the Constitution, in the values of freedom and small government. But there are tendencies, and it's important to pay attention to those tendencies and maintain the special place that we have. Because if you don't do it, if I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So take care of yourself. Make yourself strong. Make yourself knowledgeable. Pursue wisdom. Have children. People change when they have children. It puts everything in a perspective. And I haven't had my own yet, but I've had the honor and joy of working with enough children to know that they are to be protected. And I would like to give the same freedoms and the same freedoms that I've had to the next generation. Even if that means telling them to shut up because they don't know what they're talking about. Thank you.